Planned Parenthood may pull out of the Title X, the federal family planning program.
We're just done with phrasing, right? That's not a thing anymore.
Due to a new Trump administration rule that goes into effect tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, meet our propagandist.
It separates abortion services from other health care services. The rules also prohibit Planned Parenthood and other Title X recipients from providing abortion services or even offering information about abortions. Joining me now is CBS News reporter Kate Smith. She has been covering this story extensively.
Meet our Shill.
Kate, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. First off, can you explain exactly what the gag rule is?
So the gag rule means that if you are a recipient of Title X funding, which, by the way, is only for birth control services, it does not fund abortion services.
All right, off the bat, this is something Planned Parenthood commonly hides behind. So I'll go slowly for people who believe this is legitimate. Let's start with the definition of fungible. Being something of such a nature that one part or quantity may be replaced by another equal part or quantity in paying a debt or settling an account. Capable of mutual substitution. That means if you give me money for one thing, it frees up money for another thing. So here's a quick analogy, follow me. If I have 20 bucks and I want food and booze, I might split the 20 in half, 10 for each. Now you come along, being the good Samaritan you are, and offer to give me $10, but only for food. Now, am I going to spend 20 bucks on food or on booze? As long as your $10 goes to food, I can use the rest on booze, can't I? You have, in fact, indirectly subsidized my booze budget by $10. The same is true if you give money to Planned Parenthood.
So if you receive those funds, under the new rules, you are not allowed to refer a patient to abortion.
In a practical way, let's say I go into a clinic and I say, what can you tell me about my options regarding an abortion? You are allowed to say exactly what?
Nothing. You're allowed to say it exists. You are allowed to say you can look up things online.
You are allowed to say exactly what?
Nothing.
So actually you can say it exists and point them to further resources on the subject. I mean, even the anchor couldn't keep a straight face when you said that. You had to correct yourself immediately.
Imagine if you're a patient going into Planned Parenthood, you think you're pregnant, so you go in, you get a pregnancy test, you find out you're pregnant. Now, you're thinking Planned Parenthood, like there's a variety of options here.
Oh, a variety of options. Is that really what someone who goes to Planned Parenthood is thinking?
So imagine knowing that this place does abortions.
What will the consequences be for all of those clinics that do not follow it?
It could have sweeping consequences. So Planned Parenthood is always the one that gets picked out when you're talking about Title X because they were such a major recipient of the funds that are part of this program.
Well, the scrutiny isn't so much about the money they get, but it is really about the fact that Planned Parenthood is the largest abortion provider in America. The fact that it takes in more than $500 million in public funding while being the leading provider of abortion is a smaller part of the pie. But if we're going to talk about money Planned Parenthood gets from government funding, 50 to 60 million comes from Title X family planning grants. So, well, used to anyway.
So about 40% of low-income women who receive services through a Title X program, 40% of those are actually Planned Parenthood patients.
Hang on. So you're saying 40% of Title X funds goes to referrals for abortions. Planned Parenthood essentially subsidizes their marketing with federal taxpayer dollars. How is this okay from the supposedly anti-corporate party? If this does nothing to stop Planned Parenthood, then I'll still be glad we could cut millions of dollars in corporate welfare out of the federal budget. And think of this. Since Planned Parenthoods are predominantly near minority neighborhoods, how many of those referrals are black people? That sounds like the systemic targeting of black bodies to me.
That's racist! So I've been focusing a lot on the things that Planned Parenthood will have to change. And I was talking to some people this morning, and they were telling me about a few of those programs. So it's things, auxiliary programs, things like, a mobile van that helps with STD testing and pregnancy for homeless women. Those are the kinds of services that they have to stop doing.
Yeah, or they could stop doing abortions. If they cared about homeless pregnancy tests, they could still do them. They are choosing abortion over everything else. Literally, a choice between every other form of family planning as well as sexual health services or abortion. And they choose abortion.
Dollar bills, y'all.
So it's so important when you're talking about Title X to really think about the people who this impacts. And these are really, low-income women who, really need these services. And this is the only way they can do because, birth control is quite expensive.
Birth control is expensive, huh? Well, it's true. I've never needed to buy the pill. So I gave it a quick look and found this. How much do birth control pills cost? Prices vary depending on whether you have health insurance or if you qualify for Medicaid. For most brands, one pill pack lasts 1 month and each pack can cost anywhere from $0 to $50. You may also need to pay for an appointment with a doctor or nurse to get a prescription. The visit can cost anywhere from $35 to $250. Now I get it, $250 for a doctor's visit is rough, but I don't know if $50 a month on the high end is exactly breaking banks. And on top of that, they follow up with a section titled Free Birth Control. If you don't have health insurance, you've still got options. Depending on your income and legal status, you could qualify for Medicaid or other government programs that can help you pay for birth control and other health care. So you can even get government assistance for birth control without needing Planned Parenthood. To me, it seems hard to argue with a straight face that birth control is expensive, and it's certainly not prohibitive. Though the choir on the left must be screeching about now how none of what I'm saying is true while spouting pithy rejoinders like go home Nazi and fuck off fascist. What if I told you Planned Parenthood said it?
And you spoke to the new president of Planned Parenthood, Alexis Johnson. She's thrust suddenly into a very complicated period for Planned Parenthood. What did she tell you about all of this?
Well, she says that Planned Parenthood is not backing down. So, there's no situation in her mind where Planned Parenthood would comply with these rules. She does not want her physicians not acknowledging that abortion exists.
Well,
to say it exists. You are allowed to say you can look up things online.
Well, yeah. Where would the money to pay her salary come from if her employees pretended abortion didn't exist? With the CEO making more than $500,000 a year as of 2015, they have to keep money coming in somehow.
And the other part of it, besides the gag rule, is the physical requirement. So according to the new rules, you would have to have a separate entrance to these facilities, one for the birth control and then one for abortion services. Now, while that seems, neither here nor there.
And it is neither here nor there. Keep the abortion services separate from the pharmacy counter. Do women really want to have to listen to the abortion next door while they get an IUD inserted?
If you have an existing brick and mortar, building a whole new entrance and then completely physically separating all of those offices, it's not only extremely expensive, but it just might not be possible in many situations.
Right, so what...
Here we observe the propagandists and Shill agree. This signals to us that this is an obvious point to agree on. It is actually a silly, hypocritical diversion. Now let's talk about the regulations the left likes that cost business millions to comply with. The ones that are actually prohibitive and competition choking. But God forbid Planned Parenthood take the millions, I remind you, that they make yearly in retrofits in buildings.
What is Planned Parenthood's response to that? They said, we simply can't do this. This is not feasible.
Exactly. So they say two things. First of all, we're going to fight you in the courts on this. We don't think that you have legal standing to do this, first of all. Second, she says that there is enough support for Planned Parenthood on an individual basis that, they can tap into that individual support and philanthropy to make up those funds. People are upset about
And that's true.
Philanthropy and abortion. I can't even. The kind of mind that would equate charity with not just the funding of abortion, but political advocacy for abortion. Imagine if Exxon was campaigning for increased drilling rights. Or how about Bayer for stronger drug patent rights? The left would see this as a corporation lobbying for its economic interests. This is how demented this issue has gotten. That a corporate nonprofit that purports to be focused on family planning and women's health forsakes government funds that would help fund everything from pregnancy tests to STD testing so they can keep pushing abortion. What does that tell you? Not only has Trump made the pro-lifers happy, he has inadvertently struck a blow to the bloated and corrupt systems of corporate welfare. Now that is a rare kind of victory. We are the Republic's walls. Come and take it.